Joining us now to talk about this tragedy and gun violence in the U.S. is Criminology Professor Sarah Daly from the State University of New York, Oswego. Professor, you specialize in mass violence. What do you make of this tragedy on Lunar New Year? What causes someone to do something like this?
This is certainly even more tragic because it occurred in this really tight-knit community during a celebration when there's so much hope for what's to come in the upcoming year. There are reports suggesting that the suspect committed his attack out of jealousy, that he hadn't been invited to this event while his wife was. But what we know about previous shooters and attackers is that they generally suffer from a long list of perceived injustices, that people don't just snap, but they instead use an attack like this as a final message. And this often goes hand in hand with feelings of suicide too. Or it could be professional grievances that they've been fired from their job or they're not being treated fairly, that for younger men, they've been bullied, they haven't had access to romantic relationships with women, or that they've been divorced or separated and treated unfairly in a romantic relationship.
Speaking about this attack, a Democratic senator said that mass shootings are a uniquely American experience. Do you agree with that? And why do you think it has become so commonplace in the U.S. to have mass shootings?
Unfortunately, we see violence around the world in various contexts, but generally we see these type of events most often in the United States, likely because this has, in a really sad way, become a script of sorts, that it's a common story of mostly men in America who are aggrieved, they have a grudge, and then they have access to weapons that can create so much damage in such a short period of time. Most angry, frustrated people won't do this and engage in this type of violence, but when some feel that there are no other options, that they've exhausted every possible outlet, this is the result of those emotions.
We all know that the messages of thoughts and prayers are starting to pour out, as they usually do after a mass shooting. What do you think should be done to prevent more tragedies like this in the U.S.?
At some point, and forgive me if I get upset here, but some factions of the United States and our government have decided that thoughts and prayers are enough. And that's what we do in the aftermath of this. But most people know that they're not. We need more effective ways to prevent this, like red flag laws, which temporarily remove weapons from those deemed to be a threat to themselves or others. We need to train the public to recognize warning signs and then the appropriate agencies to respond accordingly. So we need better access to mental health care in the United States to address these issues before they result in violence. That can also be public support and legislation regarding universal background checks, which there's widespread support for them. We can support communities and people in the aftermath of this, but thoughts and prayers aren't going to get us to prevention. And we're going to keep doing this and sending them while everybody just gets angry. So red flag laws use kind of evidence to encourage law enforcement and to petition a judge to remove weapons from someone's home if they are a gun owner. And this could be evidence of suicidality or homicidality, such as speaking about plans to commit an attack. We've seen that many times, kind of increased levels of agitation or being prone to violence. So when we have this tangible evidence, as we've had in many cases, we're not sure about this one yet, but when there is evidence that someone might hurt themselves or others, just removing their weapons temporarily. And that could be a good compromise between, the gun folks in the United States and people who just want to be able to prevent tragedies.
Thanks so much for joining us, Sarah Daly.
Thank you.